let's get into it. Let's talk about that fight card that took place in Louisville. A lot of slugging went on out there, especially in the main card. Nassourdine Imavov defeated Jared Cannonier in the main event. A 12-5, which happens a lot in college hoops. If you guys are March Madness fans, you know what I'm talking about. But those are our rankings. Imavov came in at number 12. He beat the number 5 fighter in Jared Cannonier. This loss in particular will definitely hurt Cannonier's title hopes. And it comes with controversy, as veteran referee Jason Herzog called the fight while Cannonier was on his feet. Hurt, but still standing. Let's unpack this fight and the stoppage. Danny Segura has the first take. Danny, man, your thoughts on that fight, the way it unfolded and the way it ended?
Yeah, the stoppage, it was not a good one. I mean, Jared Cannonier was still standing, but we've seen standing TKOs be a thing that that can happen and that it's more than justified. But he was still had his hands up. He was still intelligently defending himself. He was firing back a little bit, looking to close the distance. Yes, he was hurt. Yes, he was not in an ideal situation. Yes, Imavov would have maybe likely finished that fight right then and there, but you don't know. He was still, again, fighting back. He was still covering up. He needed a few more seconds. I don't think it was a fair stoppage. We know Cannonier's tough as hell, so we've seen him in these situations before, and we've seen him come back. Yeah, bad stoppage. Also, the fight was pretty close until the moment. It's not like he was taking a beating for 2-3 rounds, and then all of a sudden, no mas. You don't want to see any more damage. No, it's a fairly even contest with a really rough patch for Cannonier in the last few seconds of that round. So, yeah, I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I think Cannonier got kind of screwed there, and it sucks. He hadn't fought in over a year. 40 years old, as you mentioned, George. This probably shoots his chances of fighting for the belt once again, but we'll see. But bad stoppage.
Yeah, and the B-roll, excellent job, Cold Coffee, shows he was still standing. The hands were up, and he immediately protested. A lot of times with standing KOs, like we'll pick on Ronda, I guess. That's what we do here as media. Remember when she was out against Amanda Nunes, she had to be held up. She was standing, but she had to be held up. I think there's a big difference between the two. I agree with everything you say, Danny. How about you, Dan? You share the same sentiments? What do you think of the fight and the stoppage?
Yeah, the fight was, going as expected. It's another typical middleweight fight, the main event that's going 5 rounds, and it was showing to go there. And it's hard because you can't say, oh, maybe the ref thought. Refs don't think about those things. Just like, to be fair, Jared Cannonier has proven that he can take damage and come back, whether it's against high-class fighters like Robert Whittaker in a losing effort and still rock them at the end of the fight, or getting rocked by Marvin Vettori his last time out in a 5-round fight, and then being able to come back and rock Marvin Vettori multiple times and win the fight. So you can never say never. And let's also keep in mind, Jared Cannonier was up on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards going into that. And even though it was looking bad for him, judges are real hesitant to give that 10-8, even more veteran judges, much less the mixed crew of local judges that we were seeing, hence all those split decisions we saw. So that's very frustrating for Cannonier. Now, Jason Herzog is a top shelf referee, and I still stand by that. And even as somebody who, definitely, didn't like that result, let's just say as well, for whatever that's worth, I will say in Herzog's defense is that it's not as bad as falling face forward like a plank, guys. But whenever you turn your back, that is also in the neighborhood of triggering body language for referees. And in Herzog's defense, even though I don't agree with the stoppage, I don't think it was a good stoppage. In his defense, though, we've seen referees stop fights many times just because you can't give that body language. And Cannonier was okay at the time, but prior to that, he was giving bad body language. So it was one of those things where I could maybe see why, but the time that Herzog decided to stop it, it looked like Cannonier was already on his way to recovering. So it's real tough.
Dan, great pulls there on those 2 fights that you referenced. And also a big shout out to Dan, Tom, and Goes, who did go to the ABC conference that they had last year, where they talked about these things and they listened intently. I remember parts of what you're saying, turning the back. You see Herzog positioning himself. He took a big step when he saw that. So a very, very nice connecting of the dots. Goes, how about you, man? What did you think of the fight and the stoppage?
I thought the fight was interesting. A lot of adjustments being made in the middle of the fight, and I thought it was a good fight, but things were starting to kind of tread in Imavov's favor, right? I think aesthetically, there were a couple things in that closing sequence that didn't help one, he didn't really go after Cannonier that fiercely, right? He kind of walked them down almost like a Terminator. So that I think didn't help a little bit. I thought when Cannonier went back against the cage, he kind of churned a little bit and then threw a big right hand, which kind of almost gives you the sense that, if you're trying to, here it is right there, you could almost say, hey man, I was playing possum. I was waiting for him to come in so I could throw that hook. There were just a couple things there that made that all look bad. But for Jason Herzog, I mean, it's a guy who does this on the regular, and for the most part, he is very, very solid. I think what separates some of the better refs from the less refs are how you bounce back from situations like this, right? Because no matter what happens, this is a very difficult job. And these guys go through this ups and downs. If you go all the way back to Big John McCarthy, even Herb Dean, they kind of tend to come in like twos or threes, like waves of these situations. I think it's really how you bounce back from it. I hope Jason Herzog can look at it and just admit, look, I made a mistake, but bounce back from it, Jason, because that's what I think separates all these referees from each other. Cannonier, unfortunately, he's going to take a little tumble. It probably wouldn't be as bad as if maybe he were knocked out, but I think the way the fight was going, his age, it's just kind of difficult. They don't really get behind him too much, so it's a really big uphill to climb now at this point, right?
Playing possum, man. That's interesting. As you said it, I thought, holy cow, he did connect. You guys remember who the king of the playing possum was back in the day?
Who?
Scott Smith. Remember that? I think he did two of those, two big ones, man. I don't know if it was Strike Force, Elite XC, or whatever, but he was a UFC veteran and he pulled a couple of those off.
And I'm not saying that.
So
I thought you were going to say Yanku Talaba.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not saying that he did that. I'm just saying he can make that argument. When you look at it, you could say, I was playing possum. I was just waiting for him to come in.
And this is in slow motion. All this is happening so fast. Herzog has built a resume and a reputation that, what can you do, man? He's one of the best in the business. Yep. You can't pull him out, put someone else in. That other person might have done the same thing. I don't know. But quick go around real quick. Was it fair or foul, the stoppage? Danny Segura.
Foul, man. Not a good one.
Okay, Dan?
Foul.
Ooh, goes?
Foul.
Okay, so we're not slighting the ref and his abilities and his skills and his history or anything like that. We're just saying this one was a bad call. I think I agree with you guys. Yeah. All right.
People make mistakes, man. I see some people in the comments saying that, and it's absolutely true. And like Go said, like the only thing you can do now moving forward is try to correct that and become a better referee from this. And I agree with that sentiment, and I think all that is great. But at the end of the day, we're talking about people's careers, right? If Cannonier would have won this one, let's say that fight would have continued, he would have won a decision. He would have been on a 3-fight win streak. And I'm not saying he would have been next for the title, but he would have been a lot more closer now than what he is now, right? So, just when we're talking about people's careers, like we're really like changing trajectories of people's lives, of people's legacy, of their income. So, a lot on the line here.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right, now let's give the winner his flowers. We've been talking about Cannonier and the stoppage. Next for Imavov, goes. What direction would you point him to if you're in that matchmaker meeting tomorrow?
Well, see, the thing is with a lot of these divisions in the UFC, that a lot of them are just clogged up at the top right now. And so, he has the option of he could either sit around and wait for a couple of results here and there, or if you just want to get back in there and do something right away, a guy like maybe Brendan Allen, I think is somebody that matches up well. I think that would be fun and can give both of those guys some action right now while everything's a little logjam at the top. And to be honest, we don't even really know what's going on at the top. So I think something like that might be good for him.
Yeah, he's not booked. I'm talking about Allen, but he is making noise for sure. And the UFC is going to Paris, in September, I believe, like 1 week after the Sphere or before the Sphere. So if Imavov is ready to go, I'm sure he would love to be on that card. But yeah, give him a big name. I agree with that. Good stuff there goes. Look, on the co-main event, some slugging went down there too. Man, that's one nice thing about the main card. We had some really, really nice finishes. And a guy we were all kind of worried about, should Reyes retire? He's on a downslide. He came up big, guys, against a notable striker. Dustin Jacoby used to throw down for glory, kickboxing, not just MMA, but he's done some kickboxing at a high level. Reyes, of course, finished him. He's 34 years old. Dan, what did you think of Reyes' performance, and is he officially back?
Well, as somebody who picked him and played him as an underdog, I was very happy with his performance. And I will say, shout out to the Southpaw Report. It aged very well. One of the things in my Southpaw Report was that Jacoby, though being a skilled kickboxer, Georgia ain't lying, folks, about that. However, when I went to dig deeper, he's always had trouble with southpaws and particularly left hands, even when not from a southpaw, whether it's Poatan Pereira in kickboxing or Alonzo Menafield in MMA. Those left hands have been a common culprit. And well, Reyes is a left-sided southpaw, man, and he really showed that, showed those counter shots that I clipped out. And, more importantly than that, how can you not just be happy for Reyes? I mean, this space only really cares about the winners, and it's kind of how the fan base tends to be. But, I don't know. I personally find it very inspiring seeing people go through long, dark times like that guy had to go through to be able to still get a win. I really like that stuff.
Bro, I'm with you. I was really, really happy for him. You could just see he was emotional. The team was emotional. When you talk about a 3-fight losing streak, bro, that can occupy years. Not like, in football, you lose 3 straight. Well, shit, you just had a bad November or an October or something like that. Hell, you might still win that 4th game. But in MMA, it can take a long time. That's a long time to not be happy about your job, your career. Great stuff there from Dan Tom. All right. Let's continue here with the card. Raul Rosas Jr. What should be next for this guy? That fight was a lot of fun. There wasn't as much slugging going on. There was some great grappling there, though. Reminded me of Nick Diaz and Diego Sanchez years ago, like a couple of little slinky lizards, I think one of them said. Danny Segura, what'd you think, man? This was really, really fun.
First of all, that post-fight interview, I don't know what the hell happened there with Raul Rosas Jr., but that was just fantastic. But back to the original question, which is, what did I think of his win over Ricky Turcios? I thought it was amazing, man. I tweeted this because I feel like Raul Rosas gets a lot of slack just because, he's all hype. He's only famous because he's 19 years old and he entered the UFC as an 18-year-old, this and that. But so many MMA fighters that are now deep into their careers wish they would be this good at 19 years of age. I mean, he's got a very, very solid back take, very, very good grappling, very tough. And not only that, dude, he's fighting in front of a packed arena, deals with the media perfectly fine, deals with the pressure. You know how many teenagers would have folded at being, at that kind of stage? Raul Rosas Jr., I do think he's a special talent. Will he be champion? I think it's too early to tell, but does the UFC have something special here? Someone that is going to be able to pick up important wins as he goes through his career? Absolutely. He's a hell of a fighter. So I thought it was great. He's showing evolution. He's showing improvement. I saw a little bit more. He's fighting a little smarter now, better decision-making, which I think that's what kind of hurt him in his only defeat. Man, this was an A+. I loved it.
Not only did he have some great offensive grappling, how about the defense he had to get out of? Because Turcios took his back, body locked him, attacked the neck, switched different types of grips as well. But yet Rosas stayed composed, fought the hands, and then turned the tables and got the same finish. So I got to give a lot of props to that defense. A lot of fighters would have folded. Also, the comments section was brought up earlier in the show. Yes, you can participate in the show here, leaving a comment, a question. We'll try and address it. Obviously, the more quality the comment or question, we'll get to those first. But a quick couple shout outs. Sky Vizen, El Daddy. I want to give a shout out to him. Phil led things off. He's chiming in on Conor McGregor and what's happening with that fight. And we'll get to that in just a second. Mark England, let's go. Chris Goes Wild. Joseph Boza. You can leave comments, questions. We'll get to them. And remember, since the show is live and some of you join later on, we may already be moving on. And so I can't get to those questions. That's why it's important to be here live at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. You followed along with the show, and we'll try and get to a lot of these questions and comments. So let's keep it going. Goes, any thoughts on Raul Rosas Jr., man? This guy, 19 years of age, super popular, keeps getting better, kind of already fought adversity when he took that L in Miami last year. Your thoughts on this kid?
Look, I think he's still a little green, but he has a ton of upside, right? And if you look at the division he's in, is there really any rush to put him out there? There's a lot of bad dudes in this division. So I think you just kind of take it one fight at a time. I do like one of the comments here in the chat. Instinct RT says Rosas at the Sphere. look, man, he fits that. If Dana White is really going to do what he says he's going to do, put that kid on that card. Keep doing these types of things. But I think you have to take them slow, aside from everything that he's done that's been pretty remarkable and pretty impressive. He is a young kid, man, and we really have to kind of look out for him a little bit in his career. So I would say go really, really slow, but we could have something here in a couple of years.
That's what Instinct RT is also saying. Rosas at the Sphere. Dan, you pour over a lot of footage, man. When's the last time you've seen somebody like this that we're all excited about, that's just got upside? He's got fan attention. What are your thoughts on Rosa and his climb?
It's tough to compare him to anybody really right now, with the age and whatnot, because there are a lot of things that came through and a lot of things that, maybe didn't quite yet, So, Macy Barber is still hot, for example, but even she herself had to kind of rearrange her goals from being, the youngest champion. So I'm not hating there. I'm always very trepidatious on that, especially with the hype. That being said, what Danny said earlier was right. That hype, unfortunately, gets Rosas a lot of trash talk, and I definitely don't want to feed into that. I picked him to win. I'm very happy for the kid. Seems like a good kid. That being said, as an analyst, there are some things that still worry me. I still feel like he's very tunnel vision in what he is good at. Not that, taking Ricky Tercios down wasn't the path of least resistance, but continually to go for the same position at the risk of him almost getting caught in the very position he finished from is really worrisome. So any gamblers out there, maybe looking to jump off the train at a certain point, that time will come, because Rosas Jr. is young. But for Rosas Jr.'s haters out there, just because this guy loses doesn't mean he's not good. If he loses again, he's so young. He has so much more to go. Just give him time and kind of let him breathe. And hopefully the UFC matchmakers can do the same as much as they can anyways.
Chris Goes Wild says Raul Rosas Jr. could maybe fight Ronnie Lawrence, O'Callaghan, Logren next if those guys are still on the roster. They all have similar records. Cayman Ryder says Rosa Jr. reminds me of Hooper. He kind of reminds me a little bit of O'Malley, except the grappling version, but just somebody that's soaring upward, has that young look and appeal to him. But Dan, I wanted to ask you a question. Tercios attacked that neck pretty well and looked like he even got underneath, or at least was cranking on that jaw. When he tried to tuck his hand, underneath, Rosas managed to get to it, but yet when the script was flipped, Tercios couldn't peel off the hand. What did Rosas do that was correct that Tercios didn't? Because they looked almost identical. It's just Rosas, like I said, did manage to peel off that hand.
The ironic part is I think it just came down to offense, because not only was both defenses sketchy, to your point, George, I would actually argue Rosas Jr.'s defense was even more sketchy. He was in the position for longer, which could say that, back to my offense point, maybe, Tercios' offense wasn't as good, despite Tercios being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and technically outranking Rosas, which again, I was so surprised Rosas just, being do or die for the sub. Go for some ground and pound. The guy's never been submitted before. Hats off that he was able to do it. But looking at how he did it, I did not actually. That was what I disliked the most, was Rosas Jr.'s lack of hand fighting. But why Rosas Jr. was successful, I don't know if it was so much as Tercios' defense on the criticism there, more of a compliment to Rosas Jr.'s offense of hiding that hand, being aggressive with it. And that's what it takes, because guys know the defense so well. And Rosas Jr. is obviously comfortable with his defense, but too comfortable for my own liking. Like, I know you're probably good at reconstructing the situation. You're good at closing. But basic hand fighting, man, that was gone. That was really scary and a bad look, in my opinion.
Yeah, and both guys threatened with the Gable grip and then readjusted. It was really, really fun watching. Folks, you should watch the fight again if you haven't, especially after hearing the analysis here from the guys. But I mean, I don't think Tercios' stock dropped much, but you could just tell he was definitely devastated.